In Jerusalem, Prime Minister Netanyahu dismissed Hamas's answer as another spin. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
President Trump's post on Truth Social was a brief, direct message to Hamas. Immediately give back all 20 hostages, not 2 or 5 or 7. If they do, things will change rapidly. It will end. Trump did not refer to the return of the 28 deceased hostages still being held by Hamas. Shortly after the Trump post, Hamas issued what appeared to be a positive public response. Hamas reiterated its willingness to release all hostages in exchange for the end of the war and Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. In its quick response to Trump, Hamas said it's willing to enter a deal in which all enemy prisoners will be freed in exchange for an agreed-upon number of Palestinian prisoners, the withdrawal of Israeli forces, and the unlimited entry of humanitarian assistance. The Hamas statement also said they are still waiting for Israel's reply to the mediator's ceasefire proposal accepted 2 weeks ago. Prime Minister Netanyahu rejected the Hamas response as more spin and said Hamas must surrender or see Gaza City leveled if they do not accept all of Jerusalem's conditions to halt the fighting. Israel has said it will only accept a Hamas surrender agreement where it disarms and no longer is a threat to Israel. Defense Minister Katz said Hamas will soon face a stark choice: either accept Israel's conditions to end the war, including the release of all hostages and disarmament, or see Gaza City become like Rafah and Beit Hanun. The defense minister accused the group of continuing to deceive and utter empty words.
It's day 699 of the war in Gaza. The IDF is continuing preparations to expand the ground operation in Gaza City and to obtain operational control of remaining Hamas strongholds. Now, the army says that Hamas is making attempts to block the population of Gaza City from moving southward as ordered by the army. Kogat released testimony of residents exposing Hamas efforts as it tries to use them as human shields. In released remarks, a resident is recorded saying, "We want to go south, but Hamas are waiting for us on the way. They tell people, go back home. There is no evacuation. People are afraid, so they go through side streets looking for alternative ways." Hamas is standing on the seashore and other places, preventing the population from moving along the main roads. Well, thousands of protesters against the next phase of the Gaza war were in Jerusalem last night at the end of the first 3 days of rage, led by families of the Israeli hostages. The protests were marred by some confrontations with police, leading Prime Minister Netanyahu to demand a crackdown. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
Most of the mass anti-government protests were largely peaceful and law-abiding, but many were not. Some of the protesters blocked roads leading to the capital and inside the city. There were also sit-ins on the light rail tracks, making police use force and water cannons to disperse the protesters. There was also plenty of pushing and shoving and violence between protesters and police. In the midst of it all, there was a message by the families of the hostages they wanted the public to hear.
ראש הממשלה דוהר בעיניים פקוחות לאסון נוראי. אני מבקשת, אל תישארו בבית, בואו להיות איתנו. אנחנו ברגע האמת, אם נשתוק, נמרוד שלי עלול להיעלם לתמיד. נמרוד וכל החטופים והחטופה, בבקשה, עמדו לצידי, ותודה, תודה לכם.
On Tuesday night, the protesters set trash bins ablaze and a vehicle nearby caught fire near the Prime Minister's house. 2 men have been arrested for arson in connection with the act. Prime Minister Netanyahu complained that police were not enforcing the law and demanded a harsher approach toward the protesters.
בדמוקרטיה, הפגנה זה דבר לגיטימי. אבל מה שקורה בהפגנות הממומנות, המאורגנות, הפוליטיות נגד הממשלה, שהם פרצו כל גבול. הם משחיתים רכוש, הם חוסמים כבישים, הם מאמללים מיליוני אזרחים, הם רודפים אחרי נבחרי ציבור ואחרי הילדים שלהם, לגן ולבתי הספר. הם מאיימים יום יום לרצוח אותי, את ראש הממשלה ואת בני משפחתי, והם גם עוסקים בהצתות. הם אמרו שהם יקיפו את ביתי, בית ראש הממשלה, בטבעת של אש, ממש כמו פלנגות פשיסטיות.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is gathering ministers and top aides today for discussions on the possibility of applying Israeli sovereignty on parts of Judea and Samaria. Finance Minister Smotrich floated his maximalist plan and evoked a threat from the UAE to end the Abraham Accords. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
The cabinet discussions are reportedly focused on the implications of international recognition of a Palestinian state and how Jerusalem will respond to the move. One move popular with ministers is applying sovereignty to parts of Judea and Samaria, a step equivalent to annexation. The meeting comes ahead of this month's General Assembly, where a wave of Western nations prepare to recognize a Palestinian state against the wishes of Israel and the United States. Finance Minister Smotrich is proposing that Israel annex over 80% of Judea and Samaria to prevent the creation of a Palestinian state. Smotrich revealed the plan together with a map of the proposed borders after annexation.
הגיעה העת להחיל את הריבונות הישראלית ביהודה ושומרון, להוריד מן הפרק אחת ולתמיד את רעיון חלוקת הארץ הקטנטנה שלנו והקמת מדינת טרור במרכזה.
Smotrich said that his plan aims for Israel to annex maximum territory and minimum Arab population. No sooner than Smotrich revealed his plan, Israel's Abraham Accords partner, the UAE, warned that annexation was a red line that would end Israel's regional integration into the Middle East. Emirati envoy Lara Nusseibeh told the Times of Israel that annexation would be a red line for the UAE government, and that means there can be no lasting peace. It would foreclose the idea of regional integration and be the death knell for the two-state solution. It was viewed in Jerusalem as an alarm bell from Abu Dhabi ahead of the 5th anniversary of the Abraham Accords, which the UAE initiated by becoming the first Arab country to normalize relations with Israel in over a quarter century.
Well, joining us now to discuss the current situation in Gaza as well as Israel's additional security issues is Colonel Miri Eisen of the International Institute for Counterterrorism. Colonel Eisen, always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining us today. Do President Trump's bold and, in many cases, capitalized threats on social media to the terror group Hamas actually have an impact on the negotiations process?
I don't think that anybody in Hamas in the Gaza Strip, or for that matter, even the Hamas people who are in Qatar or Turkey, listen to the threats from President Trump. I think that what they're listening to is the campuses, is the street. I want to even say to the other voices, progressives and others, I think that they feel emboldened right now. They're ignoring the threats and they feel much stronger because of the other voices that have been coming out of all of the Western world. It's a very challenging time right now.
Now, in regards to the Gaza City operation, we've seen a lot of pushback, yes, internationally, but also some domestically, as we spoke about. What is the Israeli public feeling about this Gaza City operation and the ongoing war?
Nobody understands it. Is that the best way to define it right now? Meaning everybody understands the need and desire to destroy as much of Hamas's terror capabilities as possible. Nobody's arguing with that. The question has always been, what about the 48 hostages? And at every stage along the way, it's been about those numbers. Will this attack, this continuing operation, threaten the lives of the hostages? And I say, sadly, I don't see a way out of that one. The actual action itself is one that will threaten hostages because Hamas, again, emboldened, not by the Israelis, emboldened by the international community, emboldened by their being legitimized by everybody in the world, Hamas would execute hostages rather than let Israel get them back. And that will tear us apart completely. So it's a horrible situation. And I think that that's what the Israeli public does not understand. How can you not destroy Hamas, but by trying to do so, you are threatening the hostages? And those are the voices that we're listening to.
Well, you know, what you're describing, of course, is really a Sophie's choice. No matter what you do, it's a lose-lose situation for the state of Israel. And yet a decision has to be made at some point. Do you think that the Gaza City operation is the right path forward militarily?
I think that there is military logic to it. And at the end, just like when you were describing before the other aspects of what's happening in Israel, it all becomes very ideological. And I think that right now, the bulk of people want Hamas to be destroyed and want to save the hostages. And I think that at least in the polls in Israel, 65% of the Israeli people say that they prefer hostages over the other target. And you know what, at the end, as you said with the Sophie's Choice, there is no happily ever after. Isn't that what we want? And we're not going to get that, and we need to face that. This is very harsh. So yes, there is military logic. It will most definitely push Hamas into the corner. And when you push Hamas into the corner, sadly, terror organization, Hamas as a terror organization, will do, I think, terrible things.
Well, we have seen several videos surface just in the last few days of Hamas beating and torturing Gaza civilians. We've also seen countless videos of Gazans reporting that Hamas is preventing them from leaving dangerous areas of conflict in the Gaza Strip, especially with the news of this upcoming Gaza City operation. Now, obviously, we know that Hamas is doing this in order to maximize those civilian casualties for propaganda purposes. But what can Israel do to mitigate this, if anything?
One of the things that we don't do enough, and I think it's important to do so, is to acknowledge how much the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip suffer. They suffer, and my heart goes out to them, to the children, to the mothers. I cannot imagine what it's like to be one of these 2 million people inside the Gaza Strip. What we can do is constantly separate between the people, those innocent people, and in Israel, it's always that question, are they innocent or not? They're kids, they're mothers, they're trying to live their lives. To separate between them and between Hamas, the terror army, Hamas, the terror army. We don't do that enough. Everybody in the world now combines them all together. Hamas is getting the fruits of riding on the backs of the Palestinian people, as you described. They torture them, they kill them, they make it impossible for them, and we do not put out a message which separates the two. And I think that that's part of the reason that around the world, everybody looks at it and says, it's the Palestinians. And I'm going to say, I support the Palestinians, and I am completely against Hamas, the terror organization. And I don't think it's an easy situation. Again, this isn't going to be about them liking us, but there's a lot that we could do there.
Now, one of the issues on the table that we see in the Israeli Knesset right now is the discussion of annexation of Judea and Samaria, or parts of it. What role does annexation play in pressuring Israel's enemies, and do the benefits or potential benefits outweigh the costs, especially given that, as we heard, the UAE is even threatening to cancel the Abraham Accords in response?
So I'm going to take the question, I'm going to divide it up. I mean, in that sense, there's no pressure in that sense that by threatening with annexation. I think that Minister Bezalel Smotrich is not threatening. He wants annexation. Minister Bezalel Smotrich has said it as part of what he wants to do. It's always been on the agenda for him. He's always noted that. It's in the party platform. I'll also add that in his party platform that he has forwarded all the time, he doesn't even pass what we call inside Israel the threshold in potential elections, meaning he does not have broad support for this inside Israel. He doesn't even have less than 3% support. So let's be clear, it's on the table mainly from what I am going to call groups inside, parties inside, it's inside the government, but it is so not in consensus in broader Israel. And it most definitely immediately threatens any kind of agreements that we have, not just with the Emirates, also with Bahrain, let alone Morocco. It would cut off those ones. I even want to go a step further. I think that if Israel would do so, it would threaten the strategic peace treaties that we already have, both with Jordan and with Egypt. It is a real worry there. And I don't think that it's worth the effort, but worth that threat, because it's not a threat. It is something which really changes the arena.
All right, well, definitely important insight on this issue. We hear a lot about the comments of folks like Minister Smotrich. It's important to put that in perspective in regards to what you mentioned about the threshold. Thank you so much for joining us, Colonel Miri Eisen.
Thank you all.
Jerusalem, 1913. There's an epidemic. Up to 90% of children had trachoma. Thousands went blind. Yet one woman had a vision. It started with 2 nurses from America, and today it's 2 world-renowned medical centers, treating more than 1 million people a year, plus youth villages, saving hundreds of thousands since the Holocaust. This is the work of Hadassah, America's largest Jewish women's organization, and a life-changing force in Israel. We helped build Israel's health infrastructure, saved lives during every war and crisis. And now, Hadassah hospitals are pioneering personalized medicine with robotics, 3D printing, AI, and providing essential trauma care. For over 100 years, our vision has been clear: to help heal our world. This is Hadassah.
The Houthi rebels in Yemen fired a ballistic missile at Israel for the third time in less than 24 hours. 2 of the missiles were intercepted, and the third landed outside of Israel. There were no injuries. One of the missiles fired yesterday had a cluster bomb warhead. Reacting to the attacks, Defense Minister Katz threatened the Houthis, saying their response will be of biblical proportions. Katz posted, "We'll complete all 10 plagues." He made reference to the most recent Israeli strikes on the Houthis. The first was named a plague of darkness hitting Houthi energy facilities. The second, the plague of death of the firstborn, when IDF airstrikes targeted the entire Houthi cabinet. Now, says Katz, the Houthis are firing missiles at Israel again. We will complete all 10 plagues. Tensions continue on the northern front as Hezbollah continues to defy calls to disarm. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
The IDF says the Air Force struck and killed 2 Hezbollah-linked operatives in southern Lebanon in 2 separate incidents. One of the men, identified as Al-Munin Musa Swaidan, was targeted in the southern town of Yatil. The military described him as Hezbollah's representative in the town, responsible for coordinating with residents and facilitating the group's use of private properties to store weapons and conduct surveillance. Another operative from the Hezbollah-affiliated Lebanese resistant brigades was killed in an airstrike in the village of Shebaa. The IDF claims that their activities were in violation of the understanding between Israel and Lebanon. In a separate special operation, the IDF forces entered and destroyed several Hezbollah positions in the Lebanese Mount Dov area. The specially trained ground forces entered in order to prevent Hezbollah from using the positions in the future.
And now the Islamic Republic of Iran is facing new scrutiny after the IAEA confirmed that its stockpile of highly enriched uranium grew significantly in the weeks leading up to the Israeli strikes on nuclear facilities. All this while snapback sanctions return in less than 30 days if a deal isn't made. Let's take a look.
A disturbing new IAEA report shows Iran's reserves of highly enriched uranium rose by nearly half, reaching over 400 kilograms prior to the war with Israel. That's enough material to create 9 nuclear weapons. This marks one of the highest levels recorded, and the agency warned that there is no civilian purpose for enrichment at this level. The report also highlighted that the Islamic Republic continues to limit access for IAEA inspectors, even after the strikes that damaged its nuclear infrastructure. IAEA nuclear chief Rafael Grossi warned that without immediate access within days, the international community cannot verify the true extent of the program. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres echoed those concerns, saying Iran's actions threaten regional stability and global security, and called on the regime to fully comply with its obligations under international law. Meanwhile, the European powers known as the E3 have triggered the snapback mechanism that would reimpose UN sanctions on the Islamic Republic of Iran. However, instead of moving immediately to enforce the measure, France, Germany, and the UK are using the 30-day window before sanctions automatically return to try to negotiate with Tehran. The regime has shown no interest in compromise and no sign of suspending its enrichment programs. With a growing stockpile of near weapons-grade uranium, ongoing denial of access to international inspectors, and the hesitation of world powers to act decisively and still trying to negotiate a deal, the Islamic Republic of Iran is yet again pushing the world closer to a full nuclear crisis.
The JNF USA initiative to rebuild Israel's south following the devastation of October 7th is ongoing. But there are a group of JNF USA volunteers who are able to give their support, but also gain something in return. The JNF USA Adam Ve'adama School is offering students a chance to build connections, gain leadership skills, and connect with Zionism. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
In Israel's southern Gaza envelope, where families and farmers are still rebuilding from October 7th, a new school year brings a new generation of resilience and hope. The students at the Shomer HaChadash Adam Ve'adama School are back in the fields doing hands-on work combined with real classroom learning.
Adam Ve'adama embodies Jewish National Fund's Circle of Impact by having each child and each student create its own ripple effect. By becoming a leader, by helping the farmers, by reaching out to their families, and by reaching out to the communities which we operate.
These students are the next generation of leaders, gaining all the tools they need to combine education, community, and the land of Israel through the special programs of Adam ve'Adama. Here, the school day begins as early as the sun is rising. At 5 a.m., while most teenagers are asleep, these students are already out in the fields, helping farmers with planting, harvesting, caring for crops, and connecting with the land of Israel.
Wake up every day around 5, and they make their own sandwiches, and then we go out. We're working with the guides, with the principals, with the educators, and everyone, the whole staff. We're working till 11:30 in the noon. In the middle, we have a break, a small break for breakfast, and even then, we study short text about Judaism or Zionism, or maybe read a poem or something like that.
By 11 a.m., the students return to campus full of energy for their studies to be had in classrooms. There, they learn all the traditional subjects a student could possibly need: math, science, literature, history, and more. Supporting JNF USA means supporting Israel's future, as programs like Adam ve'Adama School are actively gearing the next generation of resilient Zionists ready to protect their homeland and give back to their community.
Today, you could walk around here and you see people smiling, people saying hello to each other, you see children laughter, you see everything in the world. It moves on, and even though they live with the pain and they don't forget, they still continue and they cherish life, and they are with their family and with their friends. And really, people here are just smiling and helping and just very friendly, and you see the life here. It's coming back.
Whether through agricultural work or education, the Adam ve'Adama School offers a unique gift to all of its students: education with purpose. The Hashomer HaChadash Adam ve'Adama School is planting more than just crops. It's planting the seeds of leadership, resilience, and Zionist pride. And with the support of Jewish National Fund USA, programs like this ensure that Israel's tomorrow will be built on strong minds, strong communities, and strong roots in the land.
It's our home. It's not anything special or different. We really like being here, and it gives us a lot of hope. We feel like we can never, no one can break us, ever.
There's something so satisfying about Hebrew letters clicking into place. First words, then sentences, then you're actually talking. Our momentum-based method doesn't just teach Hebrew, it creates lasting fluency. Day 1, you recognize letters. Week 4, you read sentences. Month 3, you're having real conversations. Fast forward to month 8. You're negotiating the price of a taxi and succeeding. This isn't about luck. It's our proven progression system where every lesson builds on the last. At Rosen School of Hebrew, we set your language skills in motion and keep them moving with your life.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Welcome back to ILTV. President Trump's social media post demanding that Hamas give back all 20 hostages to end the war received quick approval from Hamas. In Jerusalem, Prime Minister Netanyahu dismissed Hamas's answer as another spin. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
President Trump's post on Truth Social was a brief, direct message to Hamas. Immediately give back all 20 hostages, not 2 or 5 or 7. If they do, things will change rapidly. It will end. Trump did not refer to the return of the 28 deceased hostages still being held by Hamas. Shortly after the Trump post, Hamas issued what appeared to be a positive public response. Hamas reiterated its willingness to release all hostages in exchange for the end of the war and Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. In its quick response to Trump, Hamas said it's willing to enter a deal in which all enemy prisoners will be freed in exchange for an agreed-upon number of Palestinian prisoners, the withdrawal of Israeli forces, and the unlimited entry of humanitarian assistance. The Hamas statement also said they are still waiting for Israel's reply to the mediator's ceasefire proposal accepted 2 weeks ago. Prime Minister Netanyahu rejected the Hamas response as more spin and said Hamas must surrender or see Gaza City leveled if they do not accept all of Jerusalem's conditions to halt the fighting. Israel has said it will only accept a Hamas surrender agreement where it disarms and no longer is a threat to Israel. Defense Minister Katz said Hamas will soon face a stark choice: either accept Israel's conditions to end the war, including the release of all hostages and disarmament, or see Gaza City become like Rafah and Beit Hanun. The defense minister accused the group of continuing to deceive and utter empty words.
It's day 699 of the war in Gaza. The IDF is continuing preparations to expand the ground operation in Gaza City and to obtain operational